this common term that we always listen, thesis. VC has a thesis, XYZ. So if all of you had to explain your thesis in gaming and interactive media in simple terms to the people here, what would it be? What is a thesis and what is?
Yeah, from Ventana Ventures, what we do is, very early stage funding, pre-seed and seed. And what are the startups we pick? We like this. We like the companies which are building for global, so global scalable IP very clearly, and gaming tech and gaming infra is another area of interest which we are looking at, and content is really coming up now. So content creation and scalable IP is something that interests us in very simple terms.
I think, in all honesty, I like weird people, right? If you look at most founders that have done well, especially exceptionally well, most of them are weird people, right? So we like weird people. The next thing that we've seen is India has traditionally been a copy market, right? You see a lot of innovation happening outside of India and then you copy it in India. I think most of the time the churn rate there is really, really high. So we have a mandate where we look for some level of a white space innovation, right? That can be innovation if you take content as an example. It can be innovation on IP. It can be innovation on process, it can be innovation on shipment, it can be innovation of the entire distribution side of things, it can be innovation in development, right? But we need some level of innovation across it. We're not very stingy within sectors. I mean, we have a few we dislike, but I think overarching, most sectors in gaming can be really, really profitable and scalable, especially now because it's a lot less cross-border. Adapting to new markets is a lot easier, and with AI coming in, it's a lot easier to build. It's more just we look for a layer of innovation behind things to be able to do it.
So yeah, I think at TX Rate Capital, we look at it from a first principles thinking. We believe that initially the last era of the internet was more centered around consumption, whereas the next one will be focused around interaction. So the overall interactive media thesis that we are looking at for works on this feedback process where people are part of the process. It could be through gamification. It is a most potent framework for getting people to interact and really care about your product. Apart from that, there could also be interactions given, choosing the ending or choosing certain plot twists like Netflix did with certain Black Mirror episodes in the past. So yeah, we are looking at wherever this consumption layer is handing it off towards interaction side of things, and we are quite bullish on those aspects. So in terms of stages, we come in from seed to Series A, and anywhere between 500k to 3 million kind of a check size.
Yeah, talking about mixed global investment, we are India focused fund, and talking about India gaming, we talk about India, we do also invest globally from the headquarters. We have investment in the States, or Western countries or Asia. Then India is the why we are here is that we believe in the India's growth potential. In the gaming and startup space, very simple comes to my mind as a first example. There are many more gaming startups that have been seeing the successes from here, and I believe that there are more to come in the coming years, coming decade. But still, I also see the market as still in the growing stage. That's why I say growth potential is huge here. So we are spending time here. Since this is still the growth stage, that I think Chris probably will talk about it more later. But Camille Ventures and Mixi and also Nazara have recently announced the game incubation program called Level Zero. So something like game incubation, contributing the ecosystem and helping the startups to grow here is our main approach in the next global investment. Then for the investment wise, we like something unique in the business thesis, or we like something something catches our eye, even in the comparison with some global other startup investment opportunities. So we do occasionally also look into investment in the gaming in India.
Well, I'm assuming everybody here is a founder or trying to build something, with that in mind. My recommendation is actually it shouldn't matter what investors are looking for, right? It's all about, do you really want to build something? Do you care about it? Do you think it's going to be fun? Assuming this is a game, is that something you will enjoy playing, right? That's what should matter. And assuming that makes money, then and you think you can scale it. There's plenty of money, plenty of investors who would back you, assuming you can show the KPIs that this can scale. So when you are trying to build something, I would say, the last thing you should look for is this fundable, because that's only going to take you so far, right? It should be something you care about, something you're passionate about, because that is what's going to drive you to keep investing for next 10 years of your life on it. So don't even think about what investor wants. Is that something you want?
And to add to what Sridhar said now, there's so many different types of investors available, especially in the gaming side of things, right? You have your VCs, of course, but most games are not actually VC fundable, right? You have your publishers that are going to be doing a lot more of your individual project-based work. You have passion angels that will just come and work with you on a project because they're passionate with you, right? And different markets take different theses as well. So it's not only don't build for investors, but once you know what you're building, find the investors that match you.
Okay, so now the last question. I'll just club it here. So it's a quick question. I want an yes or no here.
If we just start, what do you mean last question?
The setting context last question, and I want a yes or no. So to all the VCs here, do you think gaming is overpriced or underpriced as an asset class inside the startup ecosystem? And are we in a valuation bubble, or we are in the early stages of valuation? We're not seeing valuation bubble. Yeah, you can start.
The answer is both.
Yeah, I would.
It depends on the type of company, right? So certain asset classes within gaming are getting really, really overpriced. Like one thing I'm finding right now, especially for us, is I'm feeling content companies are way too overpriced, right? But we're seeing a lot of the infrastructure companies at that kind of crux right now, where half of them are overpriced and half of them are ridiculously overpriced, right? And then you see a lot of the adjacent businesses that are a little bit in between infra and comfort that are ridiculously overpriced because people don't understand it, right? So depending on the sector, I would say both.
And what excites you?
Things that make money.
What is stacking gaming?
What's stacking gaming expenses? See, I think for us, we like kind of newer tech stacks, right? So for example, if you look at AI today, right? Currently, game development in AI is something that everybody is talking about, right? Using AI for game development, but I think that's becoming very saturated now, right? In the last 3 months, I've seen 30 companies wanting to build in there. So one thing that's exciting us is we are looking beyond development, right? So whether it could be user acquisition, whether it could be marketing, looking at that side of things is really interesting for us as a tech stack. On top of that, integratability and kind of cross-platform optimization is something that's super interesting for us, right? I think gaming is going to become democratized across all types of gamings, and hardware and software that's going to come out to do that will be what will win the user's attention in the future.
I think in terms of the valuation bubble question, it is a bit more nuanced, right? It's bifurcated for, especially in the West, right? If you look at AAA titles, they might be on the what you might define a traditional bubble. But if you look at, say, mid-core studio, there are, for every overpriced company, there might be a one that is under pressure at the moment. So it also depends on the company's basis, the team and all. But I think at the mid-core, and this is where the follow-on answer also comes in, I think mid-core studios are a great value for money at the moment. The kind of migration we are seeing, people going from first casual to hybrid casual and now to mid-core, we are seeing that the price that we would be looking to pay at this point might be a discount for the higher LTV audiences that are coming out from emerging markets in in the upcoming years. So at this point, it might be correctly priced or underpriced, depending on what kind of potential you're looking at through these mid-core studios. Yeah.
The question is like, is the gaming startups and valuation overpriced? I'd say globally, no. India, yes. Unfortunately. Or maybe it's a good thing for you guys who are building in India. Globally, if you talk about if you are in the space in a couple of years ago, that when the people are so excited about Web3, GameFi or Metaverse, that was the times that valuation was pretty overpriced globally. But actually, that came down to people no longer talk about it, so that valuation is more honest. Then global investors are also more conscious about valuation. If you talk to the global investors, that valuation, I've seen many startups from India. Valuation is high valuation is more accepted in India than less favor from the global market at the moment. Because in India there are so many. The financial market, capital market is so strong now. There are more local. Domestic India-based VCs are also potentially looking into seeking that investment opportunity. So if there's a good one, VCs are interested in the thesis. Also, the global investors are allocating more capital to India, so that because of the demand from the investors. Investors are very selective nowadays. Investors really don't invest in here and there. But if you have a light background, you have a light thesis. Not really right, but if you have a good thesis, valuation becomes if not big, but slightly overpriced in India.
What am I? Yeah. So I have seen, adding on to what Krish is saying, I've seen both sides of this undervaluation as well as overvaluation. It also depends on founder. There are some founders which go and raise funds with just a pitch deck. There are a lot of cases like that. You don't have a hardware, you just a founder pedigree that comes. Somewhere, there are cases where we feel it is overvalued. But adding on to what Rutik is saying, mid-core, yes, hybrid casual is really undervalued at this point, and it's a good price point for investors like us to come in and invest in such companies. But yeah, the power is there, but it's not there.
Okay, so this question is specifically to Sridhar. So IGDC is where I think it's been championing the cause of gaming for quite some time, and now Jedi, you're part of Jedi, and Jedi has been actively involved in the gaming space. So from an ecosystem enabler lens, how important are these central and state-backed programs like support schemes, early grants, Government of India has the Startup India Seed Fund, KSUM does in form of Startup India Ideation Grant, Productization Grant. How important are these for gaming and interactive media? That's my question.
Actually, let me give you guys an example. Apart from me being part of Game Developers Association of India and the GDC, I've started a small incubator along with STPI and state government of Telangana about 5-6 years back. It's called Incubator. And when we started it, it was like we said, hey, we'll only give like 5 lakh rupees. This is nothing, and we never really expected anybody to actually take it seriously. But that small incubator kind of incubated over 150 companies. 150 companies, well-known companies came through it, and and what we realized is that the cohorts we were forming, some of them went out to raise money and all that, but the fact that they were all learning from each other and growing kind of created a small ecosystem. The reason Hyderabad kind of became synonymous with gaming is not only because of IGDC, but because Image Incubator was over there. So right now there's a lot of the fact that gaming industry globally is about $230 billion a year, right? The fact that all state governments, central governments are seriously looking in this space, this is the right time for us to encourage state governments, central governments to create local ecosystems because there's insane amount of talent. People just don't know how to become a game developer right now. If we can figure out a way to educate people, companies will come if there's talent. And we all know Kerala has like a lot of talent. Kerala has a lot of exposure which others don't have, international exposure. So Kerala has unfair advantage that way. If the state government here makes the right investments in talent and also creates incubators, accelerators, that's super important.
I think just to add to that, Sridhar, as well, we have seen that globally. So it's more of a transfer risk thing, right? Investors would want to see at least a glimpse of, proof of this business model being able to scale. We have seen this previously in Finland with TK's putting in 500,000 euros in Supercell, and even the company has said that it was quite substantial in them, attaining that PMF and really being able to hit the market, become the PMF that it is today, right? So I think it is huge, and it is quite repeatable as a framework even in India at this moment. So it's extremely important so that the government would come in as a feeder layer, help us understand and get a glimpse of that proof of scaling, and then investors could take up and take a scaling risk henceforward.
So I want to take more of a startup perspective on this as well. It's when a government gets involved to promote a lot of these efforts, right? So for example, with the incubator that we're doing together with Mixi and Bazaar, we're speaking with a lot of governments to just help the people of the state get access, right? Access, knowledge, and discoverability is the most difficult thing for a lot of startups, right? And I've been involved, right? So a lot of times you don't even know where to go and what to do, right? So one, when there's a lot of infrastructure being built, like the incubator that you guys had and the incubator that we're building, that creates a good pathway for that. But working with a lot of state governments can create a lot of access pipelines they can add on top of that, because their core benefit is also to create that value proposition, right? To basically just benefit and grow the broader ecosystem, right? So I think with state governments, it's selfless help, right? But it needs to be combined with a really, really strong knowledge base and industry specialist base in the back end, so that together real value gets created and selfless help is combined with depth, right? I think they need to work together or it never becomes really valuable for a company.
The way I've been imagining this whole space is like, if you have something which works, is showing potential to make money, and assuming you're a founder with a lot of pedigree and everything, there's a lot of money out there for you already, right? There's money to be raised, you don't really need an incubator, to be honest. The folks who need an incubator are folks who are probably first-time entrepreneurs, need the guidance and exposure. So most things an incubator can provide is a little bit of funding, obviously, so that you have bills to pay. But also giving you all the knowledge you need. So, and that's almost like, is a non-profit thing. Literally what you guys are doing as a grant, you are not even taking equity out of you, right? So that's exactly what we need state governments to do, is like thinking, hey, I'm not going to make money from it, but at the end of it, I would have either created a great entrepreneur who might be able to go raise money on their own, or somebody who will go work in one of these great companies which are going to get formed, right? So that's exactly what we need from state governments, is creating that ecosystem and infrastructure, so that it's like almost like a entrepreneur apprentice program, right? You get through it, and then eventually you will become somebody.
Basically leveraging the previous experience of more experienced entrepreneurs as a first-time entrepreneur to rapidly gain, right? There's a concept called crystallized intelligence and fluid intelligence, where crystallized intelligence is your wisdom and experience and intelligence, and your fluid intelligence is like your more young, innovative, new intelligence, right? And I think the people who have that fluid intelligence are the ideal candidates for an incubator, especially as somebody who's looking to select people where you can build a backend of crystallized intelligence, which can be almost downloaded into you as a newer entrepreneur, where you combine your field of intelligence with that crystallized intelligence base, and then you become unbeatable.
And for last 4 years, I've been visiting Kerala and looking for startups in gaming. One thing I've noticed is that almost every founder is very passionate. They have good ideas, good creativity. Somewhere the mentoring is lacking. So the GTM is lacking. They know how to build probably, but they don't know how to sell. Somewhere the state government could really come in with an accelerator kind of a program where they can really help them scale. How to sell this product. That's where I think really adds value to the founders. Whereas VCs come in, invest, we help them with the GTM, but I think there's a lot of pre-GTM work that needs to be invited them to know how to sell what you're building, because they are passionate, they are building very creative projects, but the passion is so much that they don't know how to sell it. They're not looking from a customer point of view. I think that's where we've been talking to state also to help them with the acceleration part. Yeah.
Yeah. So next question is to the Fomic C. So what is this is a specific question. So what is the single strongest reason why an international CVC like MGI is considering India on par with other Southeast Asian destinations like Vietnam, etc.? So that is what I want.
Okay. I might have answered that question because of the growth potential is huge here. I believe in it. Well, but I would say it was more like a core. I mean, we made a decision to focus in India. Actually, when we started, we have 50 million India dedicated to one now, and we made about 10 investment. But how it happened, talking about our decisions that just 2 years ago, we were discussing, we want to start some global fund. And at that time, the option was, we looked into Southeast Asia, we looked into, or generally global fund, that's also possible, a US focused fund. But we decided to go with India. We just came here, spent a week, about 7 days, meeting many founders. Then I was so impressed with there are so many top-notch founders. I mean, the quality is definitely there. I meet the founders from the States, I meet the founders from Japan, but I'm always impressed by the talents here. Founders, very active and very business minded, and it's really good. So one thing that convinced us is convinced me personally is that talent pool and excellent talent is here on the founder level, and also that the teams. So that that's the reason we decided to let's go for India. It's not based on the statistics, or it's not really based on the company strategy. But it's more like okay, this is it. This market is quite interesting, and we believe in it. So that's why we decided to come here.
Okay. So next specific question is to Gordon. So if a founder from Kerala or a Tier 3 city and one from Bangalore, Delhi, or Mumbai, which identical studios, does geography still affect the check size and speed? And or is it just a myth? And also, what are the tangibles and intangibles you're looking for in very early times, like the pre-seed stage?
It would be first of all hypocritical to say, I'll pick someone from Bangalore because we are based out of Udupi, which is itself a charity city in India. So no, the answer is no. It doesn't really matter. Bangalore, Jaipur, Coimbatore, Kerala, Kochi, or in any sort of Tier 3. Tier 4 city, doesn't matter as long as you're building a world-class game, scalable IP, something in platform. I think founders' mindset matters. It doesn't matter where you're located. And what did you say on the next question?
Certain intangibles that you look at very early stage, the pitch deck stage.
Okay, the intangible probably is the founder pedigree. Has the founder built something and shipped something? Because the founder, if he has only just built and not shipped and not seen a failure, probably success is a good thing. But if you're not seen a failure, you've really not seen, nothing beyond it. So if someone has built and shipped a product, either in an entrepreneurial journey or in a, in a professional setup, that is a very good thing. Despite that, and then what else? We also look for a prototype. I think something that really, gets a sparks in our eyes, saying that, oh wow, this is something new, this is something different. I think that's what I enjoy.
Yeah. So next question.
One thing on that as well is, I do believe that the one part that would be different based on geography is checklists. Because in different geographies require different amounts of capital, right? For somebody to build something in the US to India, I would cut them a different check in terms of capital amount, right? I see no reason that shouldn't apply in geographies here as well.
And we are investing in Indian founders who are building for global, so I think that's.
So this question is to you, Krish. What signals convince you you're also early stage investor, that a team sitting in front of you and pitching their idea is actually capable of building a scalable globe?
So there's two ways to break it down, right? The first one is you look at people individually, and the second one is you look at a team as a whole, right? So we'll start with individual, right? So if you reverse engineer the top founders backwards to figure out what is the commonalities between all of the good things that they do have, right? The first one that you're seeing, especially now in the AI world where things are so rapidly changing, is extremely high learning agility, right? People need to be so ridiculously adaptable now to be able to stay alive. The learning agility for us is one of the top things that we look at. Second thing is founder integrity, right? Extremely strong internal moral compass. If you look at what happened with the entire RMG stuff recently, right? There was people who were done potentially questionable things. And because of that, a lot of investment was lost, right? If we look at it from our perspective, not only do we want to make multiples, but we also don't want to lose money, right? So high amount of founder integrity is really, really important for us. We like ruthlessness. If you look at some of these founders that are really successful, half of them are described as assholes, right? But they're described like that because they do whatever they need to do well, right? And in truth, the VC game is very simple. Which company is going to make me the most amount of multiples in the shortest amount of time, right? So that's what we would look for in an individual capacity. On a team capacity, I think there's different types of founders, right? There's a founder that's going to drive a high quality product. There's a founder that's going to drive your sales. There's a founder that's going to drive your valuation, right? Which eventually you need all of these types of founders to be a part of the business, right? So we look for somebody that can overarching have all of these types of qualities between the entire team. Then we look for team chemistry, right? We like teams that are almost intuitively connected with each other, right? And there is a layer of understanding between them and a layer of trust beneath that, right? And when you see all of these signals between that, and then below all of this, the most important thing is depth, right? You need to have a ridiculous amount of depth of knowledge, right? What we found is teams where everybody knows everything is not good, right? High specialists within the team with trust that if you are a specialist in one thing and Gutik is a specialist in one thing, and I'm a specialist in a different thing, I trust you guys to take care and you trust me to take care of that. And there's so much depth, right? That's what we find to be really in teams.
Yeah, Sridhar, following on with this, you've been part of this industry, you've also scaled your gaming businesses, and you've met a lot of founders who've actually scaled in gaming, like GameBurry, like the Place in World. What do you think differentiates those guys the first time or the early days that we met them?
I think focus that was very apparent in almost everybody we met was, again, this goes back to earlier two conversations, which is, everybody knows you can build a product. If you are at that level, product is the minimum you should be able to do, right? So if I am an investor, I'm probably not even looking at that. I'm, assuming this is early stage pre-seed seed, what I'm looking at is your execution capability, your go-to-market strategies, right? Are you aggressive enough to execute on it? Are you living in those days with not months, not years, but like, hey, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, next week, I'm going to have these numbers. that kind of aggression, and you're very focused on one thing, right? Either it's a KPI, either one's or whatever it is. That was very apparent on almost everybody we've seen. They've been incredibly focused people, and almost all of them surprisingly haven't been focused on product. They were focused on more on GTM and UA, or almost all these successful founders in India. While the second co-founder was focused on the product, the primary one we all know has always been focused on how do we get customers on our product, and where is the disruption, where is the and that's what they specialized in.
So next to Ritik, so as member of part of TAG, so do you prefer backing like IP-led studios, like the conventional ones in mobile and other spaces, or are you looking at like the new sectors like live ops businesses, infra play more? Has the balance tilted from IP-led studios to the emerging stacks?
Interesting. So I think at a portfolio level, we have set up certain, it's like a puzzle piece, right? You have to fit in the right kind of puzzle pieces to make it a whole picture. So that's how we operate in terms of our investment plan and such. I'll just deviate the question a bit. I think in terms of say studio, IP-led studio, or say something that is based on live ops, right? Infra is something that is non-negotiable. Infra companies is something that we are actively on the lookout for because we are super bullish on them. But say for an IP-led business, right, an IP-led studio rather, the game rises, it plateaus and then it decays. But at the end of the day, the companies that have been able to really make their mark have been the ones that really got the live ops right. In our case, say the Clash of Clans or even Angry Birds for that matter, right? It started out as a mechanic. It was a sling mechanic. It was very fun to play. Then came the IP after that. You had those plushies, you had the movie and everything. So how we look at studios specifically is systems for studios. They solve for user acquisition. They solve for retention metrics, the most important parameter. And post that monetization could always monetization, and post that the IP is something that really comes out probably as a byproduct, or could be really designed around the systems. On the other side, I think we are very bullish on the middleware side of things as well. Any tool that might help you really maximize your user acquisition efforts, your live ops efforts. Like Krish also mentioned, AI agents could really solve for parts of it where rigid work and time is required. That could really be scaled down by quite a lot, time and money both. So I think in terms of studios, we look at systems for studios that are solved for the product aspect of things, and then the IP comes later. And for infra, we are always actively looking for those companies that are innovating on the middleware, because shovels and picks might be a bit of a outlier at this point in India. We need more mature founders in the ecosystem in terms of where we are in the evolution of the ecosystem. We are a bit too early. As we have more founders who have clocked in 20, 25, 30 years, we might be able to get a better insight as well.
Yeah. So I'll start from there for this question. So we see a lot of funded startups, early stage funded startups that have raised pre-seed, seed, struggle post-funding. Like the entire dynamics of the team changes, or they're not able to ship at the tenacity that they had before, or the timelines keep pushed. What is the cause for this early stage post-funding struggle that usually you see across gaming and interactive media more often? Is it wrong product, wrong monetization, or a team chemistry just gets distorted, or the financial? You all of a sudden have more financial resources and you're not able to manage that. What is the common cause for that?
As a startup, I also built a startup, I believe that founders have to be aware that if you raise the fund, you have to grow it. You have to live up to the expectation. How much, especially if you're raising a big amount. well, even a small amount, you have to grow it. You can't really stay there. That's the risk you are taking. And also that investors are putting the risk money, counting on the founders and the team. Then on the surface level, the startup struggle to raise the next fund or come on to the next stage. Basically progress is not there. You are expected to you have an amazing business projection when you pitch, but that's not really you're not probably meeting the goal for whatever reasons. Then the reason why probably is complex, it depends, but the typical case is that I can't really generalize, what's the what is not really allowing you not to succeed. Probably, maybe two examples I want to highlight is that one case, maybe your business model didn't work out. I mean, unfortunate truth. But then the founders has to be ready for that. Good founders always, try to validate if what he's doing is right. You can't really stick to the thesis. You have to be, proactive. You're building something new. That something new might need some adjustment or might need to be scrapped, and you have to build something new. So you have to be, a good founder I've seen out of our portfolios, the meeting founders are they're always experimenting. What if this doesn't work? What should I do? What should the changes should I make? So you have to face the truth. Otherwise you're in your trap. You're trying to chase what might not work. So that's one example I'll highlight.
So I think the biggest learning that we have is that founders, in giving interactive media, right, they don't talk to their users or their customers enough, and they definitely don't talk to them early enough, right? A lot of them will actually just go and build the entire thing, right, on what their vision of it should be, and then they'll ship it and they'll say, okay, why are the users not picking it up, right? Because you didn't build it for your audience, you built it for you, right? And a lot of the times you're building the product that is the most ideal suited to you with such a deep understanding of what the product is that it doesn't end up intuitive enough for your users, right? I think making something not only as valuable to use is important, but especially in B2C, as easy to use as possible is really, really important. I feel like that's one of the things that gets lost nowadays. I think if you talk to your users at every stage of what you're building, and if you talk to them that early, you can't go wrong. See, your business model can always fail, right? Your monetization stack can always fail. But you'll know for a fact that by the time you've finished your product, that it'll be what your end customer wants, right? I think a lot of times things around that can be figured out if there's a real need for your product from your end customers in real life. Of course, there's situations where there won't be, but the one kind of guiding principle that I would always have is talk to your users as much as possible as early as possible.
Hello. Yeah. I think I'll get to the core of it. I believe in terms of the core team, there needs to be a balance. Of course, there needs to be a guy who is obsessed with the perfect product going out, but there also needs to be the guy who is obsessed with the business end of things and making money, and they need to balance each other out. If the perfectionist, the person who is focused on the product, can't help but experiment, really push the deadlines, get the perfect graphics, the renders, the other person has to keep them in check. Same is the case for the one who is looking at, say, user acquisition. You can't, put up your fortune, your fundraising on user acquisition experiments. You have to keep each other in check. So I think that is the first part. Second, as Krish mentioned, you have to speak to the users. At the end of the day, they are the ones who are going to spend time and money on the product. And third is to make peace with the fact that at the end of the day, this is a company you are building, this is a product. You need to be realistic when you're giving out your projections and roadmaps even with the investors, because this expectation management is what is really appreciated at the end of the day, rather than accelerated timelines or really doing it in a clutch kind of a fundraise.
Just this one point here to add on. Farmers do have attachment to their products, that's natural and it's good to have, but wherever they need to adapt and do pivots, I think they need to think on that. The execution has to be fast, the testing has to be fast, and also they need to adapt and they should get onto it because too much attachment probably might the put it on a back foot than help them scale. I think adaptability mindset is very important also at this point.
The one thing I keep thinking is if you raise your money at a pre-seed or a seed level, you probably don't have PMF yet, right? So that's one thing which obviously is something it takes time to get, at least in video gaming. You have to keep iterating to get those numbers right. If you have raised money from VCs, again, they have to correct me here. They might not have too much patience for that. They would like to see results much more quickly, and so that's one thing you need to watch out for. When do you raise? Ideally, always raise once you have product market fit. Don't raise it before that because, again, you don't control things. And I think this is something most people, first time fundraisers don't understand is the accountability you're gonna have the moment you raise money. The weekly, the monthly updates you need to give, the detailed question, which is, if you don't have the discipline, it's a good thing. But if somebody, if you're not prepared for that, that could be back to, VCs are not gonna just leave you alone and pivot or do whatever you want. They're gonna have opinions. They're gonna want you to do things in a certain way. So that's also gonna affect it. So again, I know we are in a investor thing. My recommendation: please don't raise till you know you need the money, right? Till you know you're going to do something with that money, right? And usually only raise money for growth. When you know how you're going to grow, go raise money to grow your company. Till then, hustle, bootstrap, whatever you need to do to survive.
One of the things that I feel like people don't talk about, I think VCs intentionally don't mention this, is that when you raise money, nobody just raises one round, right? For the next 3 to 4 years, you're actually almost choosing inorganic growth or development. In return, you are putting a dependency on external capital that you need to continually go out and get 2 to 3 more times until you can reach a point of profitability, right? So you have to be able to, in your mind, if I'm taking this money, not only that, okay, this is my accountabilities, but I have to be able to deliver a 3x valuation or justify a 3x valuation to raise money in 18 months, or you're going to get diluted like crazy, or you're going to die, right? Because when you raise money, your business changes into a way that operates like you have X amount of money coming in each month, which you almost inorganically create yourself with your external capital that you bring in. So you have to be able to either justify it or be able to understand how will this money take me to a point that I don't need external money.
Yeah, adding to this from my personal experience also. So the monthly review calls, if you are somebody who's been building this leisurely, it's a day and night. You have to give monthly updates, you have to give monthly MIS, you have to be accountable for everything. And maybe 1 month you can bluff your monthly update. But the next month they'll be like, you said the same thing last month. So there's a micro progress and the macro progress. Pressure will be there when you raise capital. And you have to be ready for that. Because as they said, it's a risk capital that they're putting in.
It's also in good state.
Yeah. So, okay, we'll wind this up. Usually people ask for book or podcast recommendation. Since it's a gaming interactive media, so one company or a digital product that you currently are using and you're in love with. Duolingo. Sridhar.
We've been using a lot of AI within the company, Layer and a few others, Config UI. So yeah, I mean, if you are going to adopt AI, look into some of these technologies. They are bringing in production expenses down in video gaming.
I think I'll name a browser. It's called Dia browser, that was taken from the R browser. As everyone's moving WebOS, web native, I think we are going to look at more such productizations of and innovations in the browser side of things. So Dia browser by the browser company.
Arc is a very good name.
Play Super.
Play Super. Okay.
So they brought monetization to gaming, which means that while playing, your in-game rewards can actually be brought out into real-world goods, right? So your Zeptos, your Blinkits, and everything from all the way down to a Nike shoe is really good. Makes gaming a lot more enjoyable, right? And you stay for longer because you want to get real. Full disclosure, they're a portfolio company, guys, but they're really good. You should take a look at them.
Yeah, I have the Steam Deck. Yeah, this is really good for travel.
Thank you everyone. Such a fun to talk, and thank you for being here.